Marine ecosystems are in decline worldwide, impacted by pollution, overfishing, and habitat degradation caused by human activities, leading to huge declines in crucial aquatic flora and fauna. Society's reliance on marine resources, coupled with rapid increases in population growth, has reached a critical threshold, resulting in widespread depletion of fish stocks that feed into unstable food webs and unsustainable marine habitats. In particular, advanced and commercialized fishing methods that often target larger predatory fish species threaten top-down community structures, removing apex predators and causing lower trophic level species to become overabundant. These changes can vastly harm marine habitats and reduce ecosystem resilience, making marine environments more vulnerable to climate-induced stresses such as warming, acidification, and extreme weather events, where these issues are predicted to intensify in the future. Conservation efforts and governance have utilized marine protected areas to prevent waste disposal and human interaction and limit fishing activities, which is a step in the right direction. However, only 20% of Australia's waters are in fully or highly protected areas where full fishing bans are imposed. This number is simply not high enough given Australia's huge endemic biodiversity value, where projected targets of 30 by 30 are in doubt. Furthermore, when considering the waters just around Australia's borders, not including the various islands under our country's control, protection levels decrease to 11%. The ecological impacts of not protecting our crucial marine ecosystems also carry heavy social and economic consequences. If we continue along this trajectory, this relationship will become unsustainable. It is therefore vital that we increase our protection levels alongside improved governance and enforcement. How does the implementation of reserve protection and restriction of fishing activities benefit marine habitats? Fundamentally, implementing marine reserve zones is pretty simple, where restrictions on fishing and limitation on shipping traffic and waste inputs are enforced. However, ensuring that these measurement decisions are supported by the right science alongside the selection of priority sites make the implementation more complex. Peer-reviewed literature mostly supports the fact that establishing a no-take zone boosts species composition and biomass, with a study in Mexico displaying a total 463% absolute increase in biota biomass over 10 years. Similar effects are documented in a meta-analysis conducted by Lester et al., demonstrating reserve protection to heavily boost recovery in overfished sites. This evidence is heavily in support of reserve protection, but they are also conducted specifically in degraded habitats alongside extremely long periods of protection, suggesting that reserve protection is more useful as a recovery tool that may take years or decades to yield significant results. Furthermore, lower trophic level species in open access sites can often become overabundant from the targeted removal of larger predatory fish, where their natural regulation of prey populations alongside controlling invasive species through predation becomes inhibited. This leaks further down into the food web, causing overconsumption of lower prey species, decreasing diversity, and therefore the long-term sustainability and resilience of the habitat overall. Reserve protection can allow larger predatory species to recover sufficiently, maintaining food web balances that closely represent natural compositions. This stabilization and recovery in marine biota triggers a chain reaction in maintaining natural and healthy habitat compositions, where natural ecosystems benefit heavily from the presence of habitat-building organisms such as coral, kelp, and seagrass. Fishing activities targeting herbivorous species are seen to recover under reserve protection, in comparison to open access sites, benefiting coral reef assemblages through the natural maintenance of turfing algae that often outcompete native corals. This is critically valuable as a conservation tool considering the external impacts of climate-driven effects such as warming waters and acidification that currently threaten coral reef ecosystems. A heavily studied ecosystem regarding a similar effect is kelp habitats. Major issues of exacerbated ocean grazing are present in these habitats worldwide, where large fish species such as wrasse and triggerfish become overfished, decreasing their capabilities of maintaining urchin populations. This is exemplified in a long-term study located in New Zealand, where reefs harboring 40 years of enforced reserve protection led to a 5 times total increase in biomass of reef fish species. Ocean barrens dominated these sites previously, where this increase in keystone fish species allowed kelp to recover sufficiently, supporting the productivity and long-term stability of not only the site's habitats but also neighboring areas. This is furthermore supported by the size dynamics of keystone and top predatory fish species. Consumptive capabilities and behavior of large predatory fish species towards urchins, particularly the larger ones, are documented to scale with body and jaw size, alongside minimum size requirements for wrasse before targeting urchins. Fishing activities that target these larger fish species can therefore lead to overpopulations of urchins and overgrazing patterns. A study off the coast of California documented this relationship, with reserve protection allowing sheephead wrasses to grow to larger sizes, which coincided with high consumptive patterns of urchins, allowing natural kelp assemblages to recover. This dynamic is often overlooked in literature, alongside sufficiently relevant timescales, where it should be implemented into present and future reserve designs. This enhanced effect of reserve protection is particularly useful for Australia, as it can be applied to our natural coral reef assemblages that we all know and love, alongside the lesser known but crucially ecologically important seagrass and kelp habitats along the Great Southern Reef. Another major benefit of establishing no-take reserve zones are the spillover effects seen in neighbouring areas through boosted migrational behaviour and spawning rates of biota within protected areas. A strong example of this is in Mozambique, where 6 years of enforced protection saw spillover effects of up to a kilometre beyond the boundaries of the reserve, allowing herbivorous fish to control macroalgae in these regions. This phenomenon is particularly valuable in degraded areas where fish stocks have collapsed, enhancing sustainability both inside and outside their boundaries. Marine reserve protection benefits targeted large-bodied species most, as long-term protection is correlated with overall biomass recovery. 3 sites harboring enforced fishing protection in Belize showed similar correlations between snapper and parrotfish species, often targeted by fisheries. These species returned to natural levels observed in 1998, with parrotfish species exceeding biomass levels before overfishing activities, demonstrating strong compliance with protection and association between positive food web assemblages and marine reserve implementation. Recovery rates of overfished snapper abundance were not observed in non-reserve sites over a period of 9 years, exhibiting a gradual decline in biomass over time. This suggests that the natural recovery of these predatory populations may take decades to stabilize or not occur in their existing ecosystems at all. Although the ecological usefulness of reserves is overwhelming, this case study demonstrates a separate use case, where long-term reserve protection can help collapsed fish stocks recover. This recovery is economically important species, combined with the spillover effect, can serve as a useful tool for nearby stakeholders who rely on the ocean for resources. A complete recovery in fish stocks within a reserve allows an opportunity for the implementation of sustainable fishing practices in an area that has been heavily researched and monitored. Although the long-term protection is desirable for reserve designs, on and off periods for resource extraction purposes may be economically and socially useful for fishing activities, particularly those in regions that heavily rely on marine resources. The evidence in support of marine reserves is compelling, but there are always cases where improper implementation can cause no effect or exacerbate negative effects. Natural consumptive behaviors of boosted fish stocks are often biased towards native species as opposed to invasive ones, which can lead to their overdominance. Additionally, extreme scenarios of disease, heat waves, or storms can sometimes wipe out ocean populations, where these known pests still in fact play a critical role in controlling macroalgae. This effect was documented in the Caribbean reefs, where enhanced ocean predation negatively affected the sites. This contrast in typical functional roles of reserve protection in regulating pest populations demonstrates the complexity of applying marine reserves as conservation tools. It is therefore suggested that establishing highly or fully protected marine reserves should continue to grow in Australia and worldwide, as their efficacy is well documented. But governing decisions that drive this must be backed by proper site-specific research and monitoring practices to ensure that they are effective. Enforcement of fishing bans and restrictions on human access must also be sufficiently managed to ensure their effectiveness. This is crucial as negative climate-driven conditions threaten our marine ecosystems worldwide, where enhanced sustainability and resilience that can be driven by reserve protection are vital in protecting not only our oceans, but also our economic and social reliance on the resources it provides.